The Broken Ear is one of the very best Tintin albums, but it is also one of the most complex Tintin albums. It is like 10 times more difficult to understand than any of the other albums. In this video, I will try to make it somewhat clearer. I will firstly try to make sense of the story, to explain what actually happens. And secondly, I will give some theories about the themes of the story. To do these two things, I will 1. Give a short introduction to the characters you see on screen. These are the characters who have some sort of interest in the fetish. 2. I will read the album quickly, and you will be following along and watch me point out some of the most prevalent evidence and so on. 3. I will give some further explanations regarding these characters after I have read the album, and I will try to explain the story fully from each and every one of these characters' point of view. 4. I will give an explanation about the story or the travels of each and every one of the separate fetishes. There are at least 3 different fetishes in the story. 5. I will try to answer some of the more unclear points of the story, which still remain after I have done my story explanation. And lastly, 6. I will give some presentation about different themes of the story. So, first off, some character introductions. Firstly, we have the old Arumbaya. This is the tribe who owned the fetish from the very beginning, and they also owned the diamond. Then we have Walker, who is a traveler who gets the fetish as a gift from the Arumbaya. Thirdly, we have Lopez, who is the first thief. He steals the diamond from the Arumbaya and hides it in Walker's gift, the fetish. Then we have the museum, who owns the fetish after Walker gives it to them. Then we have Rodrigo Tortilla, who steals the fetish from the museum. And Alonso Perez and Ramon Bada, which hunt after Tortilla and kill him to try to steal the fetish from him. We have Jacob Balthazar, presumably the younger of the 2 Balthazars, who is an artist who is employed by Tortilla to make a replica of the fetish. And we have his older brother, Mr. Balthazar, who is also some sort of artist, who gets the fetish after Jacob Balthazar's death. And then we have Jimenez, who is some sort of dissident military personnel who have a personal friendship with Perez and Bada. And later we have the new Arumbaya, like the Arumbaya as of today, who meet Tintin and still have like some sort of claim towards the diamond. They remember the diamond being stolen from their ancestors. And then we have Samuel Goldbar, who is an American who buys the original fetish from an antiques store, or rather from Mr. Balthazar. And then of course we have Tintin. Okay, now we will have a look at the album itself, and I will quite quickly go through all of the pages. The album begins by showing the museum where we see the fetish, and we see the fetish being stolen in the middle of the night. We don't see the face of the thief, but I have presumed that the likeness of the hat of this person and the fact that he's standing looking suspiciously at the fetish is showing that this is Tortilla, the original thief. So the fetish is stolen, the detectives show up, Tintin hears about it and goes home to read about the fetish origins, and he sees the picture of the fetish with the broken ear. And the next morning the fetish returns to the museum, or does it? This is the new fetish. And Tintin figures it out quite quickly. He understands that it is not the same fetish because the ear is not broken. He sees in the newspaper that an artist had been killed, and that this artist is interested in like exotic statues or something. So he makes the connection and goes to see the room of the deceased. He meets the landlady who explains the situation and gives him some personal information about Jacob Balthazar, which makes Tintin understand that it probably wasn't an accident that made him die, but rather a murder. And after this, Tintin is confused and he wonders about the murder, but then he gets an idea. He runs back to try to buy the parrot of the landlady to see if maybe he can get the parrot to talk. But he is in no luck because the parrot has already been sold to Ramon. And when Tintin comes to try to buy it off Ramon, the parrot escapes. But Ramon lies about the origins of the parrot, which makes Tintin suspicious, of course. The parrot is announced in the newspaper, and Tintin gets the parrot from a person who has found it. But the parrot escapes. And late in that night, Tintin is invaded by Ramon, who is there to steal the parrot, which he thinks Tintin still owns. Tintin surprises him, but the pair of them manages to escape, and Tintin is almost killed. At the same time, the landlady is woken by what she thinks is the ghost of Balthazar. The whole building wakes up, and everybody goes to Balthazar's apartment and finds out that it is just a parrot that has returned. Tintin runs for it and tries to buy the parrot again, but this time he's also defeated by Ramon, who buys it first. But Tintin, by some other tricks, actually finds where Ramon and Alonso live, and he goes to them to sneak outside of the window. And by some lucky mistakes, all of the three of them hear what the parrot has to say. Rodiga Tortilla, you killed me, the parrot says. Okay, the villains try to call Tortilla, but hears that he is going abroad. They follow him to the same ship, and so does Tintin, but secretly. The villains believe two different people to be Tintin, but are mistaken 2 times, and then feel safe enough to not worry about it. And they figure out in which suit Tortilla lives, and they kill him and steal the fetish he has. The next day, Tintin reveals himself, and the 2 villains are arrested, and the fetish is captured by Tintin. But the policemen and Jimenez, who come to arrest Ramon and Alonso, are actually friends of them and set them free. And Tintin is called to shore to attend a hearing, and this is of course false, and he is tricked, and some bombs are placed inside his suitcase, which makes the other policemen believe that he is a terrorist. So he's put to the killing squad. But because of some shenanigans and the revolution, Tintin is actually saved and made into a ranking official in General Alcazar's new regime. And from here on we will skip forward a bit to where the hunt for the fetish starts again. Tintin works for him, and here he is captured by the villains, who have come to the conclusion that the fetish they stole back from Tintin is fake, and they believe he has knowledge of the whereabouts about the real fetish. So they will try to force that information out of him. But Tintin lies about it being still aboard the Ville de Leon, the ship they were all on, and he is miraculously saved by some lighting ball or something, and he defeats the villains. And the visit at Alcazar continues until by some other reasons Tintin is mistaken for like another revolutionary or something. He loses the trust of Alcazar and is again sentenced to death, but he's saved by Pablo, which is an acquaintance he had made earlier. So he escapes and rides out to the mountains. He's almost captured, and then escapes across the border, where he is again captured. At the same time, Ramon and Alonso also goes near the border because of the war, and Tintin is captured by the other country and manages to escape down to the river. and later he finds out about the Arumbaya being nearby. So he goes by canoe to the Arumbaya, whom he finds. Milo is almost killed by a snake here, and Tintin meets Ridgewell, who was supposed to be dead for like 10 years, but is some kind of hermit who have like moved in by with Arumbayas. And Tintin and him goes to the Arumbaya, and Tintin asks about the fetish and wants to know why everyone wants to own the fetish. And Ridgewell tells him about Walker and about Lopez and the diamond, and now Tintin understands why the fetish is valuable. So he decides to go back to Europe, but after that he by chance meets Ramon and Alonso again in the jungle, and by some trickery he manages to defeat them, and he finds in the pocket of Alonso this rather interesting note: "I am dying, Walker expedition, the diamond in the fetish, the broken ear, Lopez." So it's a note by Lopez with information about the fetish and the diamond. Okay, and then Alonso tells Tintin that they found the note, and it was from Tortilla, who was a passenger on the same ship from San Theodoros to Europe that they were all taking. And then they managed to escape and defeat Tintin, who also manages to escape. And then they go to Europe, the villains getting there before Tintin. When back in Europe, Tintin finds a fetish with a broken ear in a random antique shop, which he buys, of course, but then he sees two more and realizes something is off. So he asks about the original seller of these fetishes and meets the brother of Jacob Balthazar, who has made like 1,000 different fetishes, all with broken ears. And he asks Mr. Balthazar about the origins of the sculpture, and Balthazar answers him that he found it in a suitcase lying in the home of his deceased brother. Tintin asks about this original, which Balthazar reveals he has sold to a rich American called Mr. Goldbar. Mr. Goldbar is going home to America, so Tintin flies out to him. At the same time, the villains have also found Mr. Goldbar and have found the fetish in his suitcase. They get ambushed by Tintin and drop the fetish, and the diamond falls out and falls down into the ocean. The three of them start to wrestle and fall into the water. Tintin manages to get up, but the two others hold onto each other unknowingly and drown. After this, Tintin talks to Mr. Goldbar and explains that the fetish is stolen from the museum, and he goes back there and it is put back together. That is the story. Onward. Now I will try to explain the story further from the points of view of each of these characters. Well, the old Arumbaya you don't really need to say much more about. They give the fetish to Walker, and they are stolen of the diamond by Lopez. And they find out about this and attack the convoy, killing everyone except Walker and Lopez, who both manages to escape. And they know about this. And Walker, he just gets the fetish. He doesn't know about the diamond being there, and he goes back to Europe and writes his book, travels in the Americas, and he gives the fetish to the museum in some way. Pretty straightforward. And Lopez is the interpreter on Walker's trip. He steals the diamond. He knows the Arambaya are after him or something, which makes him hide it in the fetish. And when the convoy is attacked, he is hurt badly but manages to escape. And later, in like the hospital or something, on his deathbed, he writes a note where he discloses the secret of the diamond. And we don't know to whom he writes this note, but we know that Tortilla gets it at some point later. Okay. The museum, it's also pretty straightforward. We will see later that they own the different fetishes at different times, but like the main fetish, they have it at first, they lose it to Tortilla, and then they get it back by Tintin. Okay, pretty easy. More complex is the story of Tortilla. He gets hold of the note from Lopez in some way. We don't know if he gets it directly from Lopez. Probably not though, because there is some time difference, and if he got it straight away from Lopez, who died like right after the travels of Walker and Lopez, he would have like waited a really long time to make use of the note. So probably the note has gone through some hands or something, and then it gets to Tortilla, who makes some looks around and figures out which fetish the note is talking about, and he understands the value of it. Okay, he takes the ship to Belgium, or at least Europe, and this is the same ship that Alonso and Ramon also are on. He drops the note on the ship somewhere, and later he meets Alonso and Ramon after they have picked up the note, but they don't know that it is Rodrigo who has dropped the note, and Rodrigo doesn't know that they have the note. So they are unaware of each other, but they get to know each other anyways, because they are from the same country and they are both going to Europe, so they like become like acquaintances or something. After he gets to Europe under the false premise of being like a doctor, he finds the fetish in the museum, and he contacts Jacob Balthazar and explains the situation to him. The plan, which is for him to steal the fetish in the night and bring it to Balthazar for him to make an exact copy of the icon, and then turn it into the museum while keeping the original. All of this presumably for some sort of prize for Balthazar. And he follows this plan, but he actually kills Jacob Balthazar instead of paying him. which is actually the thing that comes back to get him, because if he wouldn't have killed Jacob Balthazar, Alonso and Ramon wouldn't have known that it was Rodrigo who stole the fetish, and then they wouldn't have killed him. Okay, so he gets on the boat to flee with the fetish, but he is pursued by or followed by Alonso and Ramon, who kills him and steals the fetish he has in his bag. Right. Alonso and Ramon, they take the same ship as Rodrigo from Santiago de Oros to Europe. They find the note and doesn't make much of it at first. They aren't interested in like making some robbery or further investigations. They become acquaintances with Tortilla, and then when they get to Europe, when they get to Belgium, they see the robbery of the fetish in the newspaper, and then they realize that it might be like true, the diamond being in the fetish and so on, and someone else has figured it out, and they know that it is someone on the ship that has made the robbery, but they don't know who, because they just found the note. But then they actually do like the exact same thing Tintin does. They see the news about Balthazar's death, and they make the connection, and they get the parrot, and they get the parrot to talk. So they hear from the parrot that it was Tortilla who killed Balthazar, so presumably it is also he who has stolen the fetish. They go on the same ship as him and kill him and steal the fetish he has in his bag. And then they are arrested by Tintin the next day, and the fetish is taken from them by Tintin. And they are freed, of course, by Jimenez, but when Jimenez and the rest frames Tintin and like gets the fetish, and the fetish gets to Alonso and Ramon, they examine it further and understand that it is not the real fetish, because like they don't find the diamond in it or something. But they think that Tintin still has the real fetish. They believe the fetish to be real when they owned it, but later when they get it back from Tintin, they perceive it as a false fetish. So they will try to contact Tintin again, but the next time they meet him, he has been awarded a high position in Alcazar's regime after Alcazar takes power, and they can't get to him, so they kidnap him and try to make him talk, and he lies about the fetish still being on the boat, but then manages to escape. And the next time they meet him, he reveals that he has lied, because they are like anxious about the ship having burnt or sunk or caught fire or something. It got destroyed. So now Tintin discloses that he didn't actually own any other fetish. So they now know as Tintin that the real fetish didn't leave Europe, and it is still there somewhere. So they go to Europe, and they go to Europe before Tintin, and again they make like the same conclusions Tintin makes. They must do, because otherwise they couldn't know about Samuel Goldbar. They somehow get the information out of like Balthazar or someone else that Samuel Goldbar has bought the original for the many replicas which has taken over Brussels. So they hunt him down and they find the fetish. But at that point Tintin ambushes them again and they lose the diamond, and then their lives. Okay. Jacob Balthazar. He is an artist, and he gets employed by Tortilla to make an exact replica of the fetish in one day. And he manages to do that somewhat. He misses one point, which is the ear being broken. And this I have seen some theories on the internet, like why, if he was skilled, why didn't he see such an obvious thing? And the idea is either he was uncareful and stressed because there was so little time, or he just presumed that the broken ear was something that has happened by Tortilla when stealing it, and it wouldn't look right if he made a copy which was also broken. But we don't know that. Why does Jacob Balthazar, who seems like a ordinary person, get into criminal life? Well, we don't know that either. Perhaps he is intrigued by the fetish itself as an artist, or more likely it is because of his economic problems. The landlady discloses the information that he has sometimes been late with rent, for example. And the life of an artist is never easy, of course. But the main thing about Jacob Balthazar to know is that he doesn't actually just make one replica of the fetish, but two. And this is stated like nowhere in the album. I said this in my other video also, but the usual thing with Tintin mysteries is like Tintin will spell it out for you by the end and say something like, Snowy, this must have been how the villain's plan worked, or something. But if you read the album carefully, like a couple of times, it is quite obvious that this is like the only solution to fix the story. The reason why there is one fetish that goes to the museum, which is fake, and one fetish that goes to Tortilla, and then Alonso and Ramon and Tintin, and then back to Alonso and Ramon, the fetish on the boat, and which is also fake, and one last fetish that is left in Europe, which is used by Mr. Balthazar, which is the original, that is then sold to Samuel Goldbar. Balthazar makes 2 copies. Why does he make 2 copies? Well, we'll get into that more later, but the important thing is to know that he gives a fake one to Tortilla, and Tortilla doesn't notice it. So Jacob Balthazar keeps the real one. The one he will know is the valuable one, and he presumably knows about Tortilla's plan to go abroad. But I don't think that he actually knows about the diamond, and these are the reasons for this. If he knew about the diamond and Tortilla being after the diamond, it wouldn't have helped him much to make a false copy for Tortilla, because then Tortilla would have just found out about the diamond not being there and then gone after him. But if he believes Tortilla just wants this fetish and will try to sell it on the black market or something, I will make him a copy also, which won't sell because he can't prove authenticity, but he will travel back to South America nonetheless and won't notice anything. But all in all, Jacob Balthazar makes 2 false fetishes, one for Tortilla to trick him and one for Tortilla to give to the museum, and he keeps the original one for himself. And when he is killed by Tortilla has already gotten the 2 fetishes, which he believes is the only ones. So the original is hidden in Balthazar's suitcase while he loses his life. Okay, onwards to Balthazar the Older. He gets Balthazar's things after Jacob's death. He doesn't recognize the fetish, or I presume so, because otherwise he will turn it in to the museum or the police or something. But he finds the fetish and he likes it, or in some way he comes to the conclusion that he will make copies of it. Maybe it is because he misses his brother and wants to immortalize some of his art, or it's just he sees it as something that could be marketable. And then when Samuel Goldbar wants to buy the original, he sells it to him, which, if it all was a sign of love for his brother, maybe he wouldn't have sold the original. So maybe he just thinks it looks cool and will sell well, which is all, of course, right about. Okay, to Jimenez, who is a military man and maybe some sort of policeman. He knows about the fetish because when he releases Alonso and Ramon, they talk about it together. It's a shame about the fetish. Well, you will get it back soon. He says in a way he knows about what fetish they are talking about. And I will go into this later actually, but there could be some different explanations for this. And next, the new Arambaya, they know about the fetish and about the diamond, because they tell Tintin a ritual, but they don't seem to care about it, or they aren't pursuing the fetish. In contrast to the people in the Temple of the Sun, who are going out to Belgium to seek their relics and make revenge and so on. The new Arambayas seem happy enough without the diamond also. And I will get back to this point in the part about thematics. Samuel Goldbar, he doesn't know very much at all. He just sees the copies of the of the fetish and decides he wants the original. Buys it, sees it being destroyed, and gets the explanation from Tintin. And Tintin, he follows the fetish almost the same way Alonso and Ramon does, and his story is quite obvious from the album itself. Okay, to make the story clearer, I will give like a timeline of the different fetishes. As established in the previous notes, there are 3 different fetishes because of Jacob Balthasar not making just one but actually 2 false fetishes, 2 replicas. So here I have organized them into slots. F1 stands for the original fetish, F2 for the fetish that Tortilla perceives as a replica, and F3 the fetish that Tortilla believes is F1. It will get clearer when I go through it. So from left to right is like the timeline of the different things. And in the top row there are some boxes, and these signify the diamond. The rest is just the fetish, but the diamond is at the very beginning and the very end separated from the fetish. Okay, so first off, the fetish is owned by the Arambayas and it is gifted to Walker. And the diamond is also owned by Arambayas and is stolen by Lopez. And these 2 things are combined by Lopez into the fetish, which is still owned by Walker. And he takes the fetish and travels to Europe, where he gifts it to the museum. Tortilla steals the original fetish from the museum and gives it to Balthasar for him to make a replica of it. But this is where the 2 different other fetishes are created, F2 and F3. And Tortilla believes he gets F1 at this point, but the original fetish, as we know, actually stays with Jacob Balthasar when he is killed, and it remains at his apartment until his brother finds it and collects it, and then he holds on to it until Samuel Goldbar buys it from him, and he owns it until like the brothers steal it from him. I didn't remember to put them in also, but just think of it like Ramon and Alonso in the middle here, and then the diamond is separated and falls into the ocean, and the fetish is returned to the museum by Tintin. Okay, that is the main fetish, the F1 fetish. F2 is the fetish that Balthasar at first owns. He makes it for Tortilla, which who knows it is a fake, so he turns it into the museum, and then at the end of F1 being returned to the museum, I presume they just throw it out or something. And F3 is the fake Balthasar also makes, and he gives it to Tortilla saying it's the real one. So Tortilla first owns it, then it gets stolen by Ramon and Alonso, and then captured by Tintin after he surprises them in the morning on the ship, and then Jimenez gets it and gives it back to Ramon and Alonso, but they discover it is a fake, and they believe it's a different one than the one they had already. They believe that they at this point got F1 fetish, and they actually got the same one still, but at this point they discover it is a fake, so they discard of it. Okay. Even after these clarifications, I see it as there are, as it, I see it like still unclear in some aspects. I will go through 10 questions which need some extra clarification. Okay, number 1. Why does Jacob Balthazar make an extra fetish? Well, I already touched on this subject. I think it was either because he wanted the fetish for like artistic reasons, or for the same reasons that he became a criminal, for the reason that he needed more money. Like if he got the real fetish and it was valuable, he believed he could sell that one too. Or there could be something like he didn't want Tortilla to get the real fetish because he didn't like him. He just wanted to get paid by him or something. I don't know. It's up for debate actually. Okay, 2. Why does Tortilla go to the museum 2 times? This will be obvious for you by this point, but I will make a note of it anyway. The reason Tortilla can't just make Balthazar create a replica at first and then go to the museum and change them out is because he wants the replica to be exact, and he can't really have Balthazar standing in the museum drawing suspicion by like making a sketch or something, and he doesn't trust Balthazar to make it from memory. So he believes the best idea would be to give Balthazar the fetish for 1 day, and this is of course the reason for Balthazar being able to trick Tortilla by making 2 fake fetishes. Okay, 3. Why doesn't Ramon and Alonso know it's Tortilla immediately? And the reason for this, I discussed it earlier, it isn't stated exactly in the story. It's even contradicted somewhat, which we will get to later. The reason Ramon and Alonso doesn't know it's Tortilla who has murdered Balthazar and stolen the fetish is because they found the note on the boat, but they don't know who dropped it. And they know Tortilla, but they knew him like after he dropped it, and they haven't spoken to Tortilla about the note or the fetish or something. Okay. 4. Why doesn't Tintin alert Tortilla? This is quite strange actually. Tintin listens in to Alonso and Ramon because he is really disguised, and in the cafeteria he overhears them talking about Tortilla and hears the steward giving them information about the whereabouts of Tortilla. And if Tintin at this point knew why they were after him, after Tortilla, to be clear, he could have just interrupted them in the act or something if he wanted incriminating evidence. There was no reason for him to wait to morning for the arrest. this was the reason Tortilla died. And I have thought about this for some while. Maybe the reason is like Tintin didn't believe they would actually kill Tortilla. Maybe he thought they would like just steal it from him or something, or he didn't hear it clearly enough and just talked to the steward afterward or something. But I think there are many things that aren't actually plot holes in the story, but this is one of those points that I think maybe you can't really work out. I can't, at least. So I'll be happy to see some comments about that if someone has an idea. Okay, 5. Why doesn't Tortilla see that the F3 fetish is fake? He has seen the fetish. He has even seen the note which clearly states that the fetish is the one with the broken ear. How doesn't he see that the F3 fetish is also fake when it has in fact an also intact ear, just as the F2 one? Well, we don't know actually. I have some theories. Maybe he was in such a hurry after getting the fetish from Balthazar, because he kills him immediately and then like hurries away to the ship, doesn't even consider that it is a fake one, because why would Balthazar make an extra fake one? The thought didn't cross his mind. And then he goes to the ship, and maybe he doesn't even look at it. There he waits until he gets back to South America or something. Or if he looks at it and realizes it is a fake, maybe he like gives up or something, or waits for another chance to get back. There isn't much to do while already on the ship, and even more so when he knows that Ramon and Alonso are looking for him. He has more reason to stay hidden still. One weird thing is, like, if he knew it was a fake, maybe he would have told Ramon and Alonso that in like the moment of them killing him. But I don't know. The same question could be asked about Ramon and Alonso. Why doesn't they see the F3 as fake immediately? They have also read the note, and they know that the key thing to look for in the fetish is the ear being broken. And here I have like maybe the same response as to the last question. Perhaps the idea doesn't even cross their minds that this could also be a false fetish, because Tortilla is the criminal, and he has made the robbery already. They see it as like obvious that he would have gotten the right one, so they don't question it at first. Or maybe they are also like stressed or something. I don't know. But this one is actually a little more strange than the Tortilla one, because they aren't afraid of anything, and they have time to look at the fetish throughout the night after they have killed Tortilla. So yeah. Number 7. Why does Jimenez seem to know about the fetish? This I touched on briefly before. I have 2 theories. Perhaps Ramon and Alonso has called him from the ship already and talked about the fetish. They seem to be friends earlier. They don't seem to be like conspirators about the fetish, because if they knew each other from San Teodoros, Ramon and Alonso didn't know about the fetish until they got on the ship to Europe. So Jimenez wouldn't have heard about it. But maybe he got a phone call from Ramon and Alonso, somewhere along the way. Or the conversation on that page could have just began earlier or something, like the camera, or so to say, didn't show Ramon and Alonso telling Jimenez about it. So yeah, that could be 2 possible explanations. Point 8. Why does Alonso tell Tintin that Tortilla dropped the note? This is like contradicting the whole idea of them not knowing that Tortilla is the murderer. If Alonso tells Tintin that Tortilla dropped the note, they would have no reason whatsoever to look into the murder of Baltasar. They would just immediately presume that it was Tortilla who had stolen the fetish, and they would go right after him. So my only explanation for this not being like a giant plot hole would be that Alonso was telling Tintin like what they understood about the scenario now. Like now they of course know that it was Tortilla who dropped the note, and they tell Tintin in this like post knowing way about the dropping of the note. But it is a little bit convoluted, and it would have been clearer if he said also we found the note and now we understand that it must have been it must have been Tortilla who dropped it. Yeah. Okay, so on to question 9. Why does Tintin and Ramon and Alonso leave South America? This troubled my mind many times I read the album. I thought it was like a bit like random. They go to South America, doesn't find anything, keeps on being there, and then just goes back. It seems random. But this is my theory. Tintin already knows that the fetish isn't in South America. Like from pretty early on, from like already when he goes to Alcazar, like if he figured out that the fetish that Ramon and Alonso owned was fake, he would have no reason to suspect it being in South America at all. So the reason for Tintin staying in South America is twofold. First off, he just decides to work for Alcazar for some reason. He stays, and after he randomly gets to the area that Rambayas live, he decides that his main quest will be to find out about why everyone seems to want the fetish, and this he achieves. And after that he decides to go back to Europe. With Ramon and Alonso it's a little bit different. They believe the F1, like the original fetish, is somewhere in South America probably, or somewhere Tintin knows about, and Tintin is in South America. So they found him, and he tells them that he doesn't know anything about it, and then they both escape and they decide to go back to Europe, because that's like the last place anyone saw the real fetish, which is a good conclusion from them. Okay, so the last question. How does Ramon and Alonso find out about Gold Bar? And this I already touched on also. It isn't stated anywhere in the album, just as with how they find out about the parrot. But like the only reasonable solution to this problem is that they do exactly the same thing that Tintin does. They go and find Jacob Balthazar's brother or someone that knows his business, and they hear about Goldbar buying the original. And all this after they probably had the same shock as Tintin got from seeing all of the replicas. And then, because they have gotten to Brussels before Tintin, they got on the boat earlier and manages to steal the fetish, but not fast enough to evade Tintin. Okay. Now, when the story is hopefully somewhat clearer, I will move forward to making some comments about some themes I have picked up from reading the album. First off, ghosts. There are some instances in the story when ghosts or haunting is mentioned. When the fetish miraculously returns the next night to the museum, the attendant makes comments to the media about the fetish being bewitched or haunted or something. Inside of Balthazar's apartment, the portrait of what I presume is Balthazar is standing next to a skull, which could be like a symbol of the death of Balthazar being present in some way. And in the night, the landlady, of course, believes that the parrot's voice imitating Jacob Balthazar is the ghost of Balthazar coming back to his apartment to haunt them. And another instance of like a ghost-like figure is Ritual, because he disappears into the jungle and Arumbaya meets him, and everyone presumes that he is killed because they have the reputation of being so dangerous. But now he meets Tintin like a dead person coming back to life. Okay, how does this create a theme? Well, I will start with the question what a ghost is. A ghost is not just a physical presence, but it is a presence of something else. A ghost is a person coming back for some unfinished business or something. A ghost is the actual being invaded by the like magical or something. And the role of the ghost is to affect the real without being a part of the real. So even though Jacob Balthazar isn't alive anymore, the like idea of him still lives on, and something of that likeness. The idea of a ghost is being between worlds. You're not really living, but you're not really dead either. You're somewhere in between. And the ghost is also a sort of replica. It is a replica of the real person, because it isn't Balthazar. It's only like the voice of Balthazar. But the same with the fetish being replicas. They are like in some way ghosts of each other. And being haunted is like a theme of this album, and also like the Seven Crystal Balls and Cigars of the Pharaoh, all of them containing like haunted objects being stolen from from other cultures. Okay, onwards to the parrot, who is a very important part of the story, and I think the most important part to find out about the themes of the story. Some thoughts about the parrot is a somewhat magical creature in the following way. It's not like a real bird. It's a bit like supernatural. You don't really think about it because you're so usual to idea, but the idea of a bird speaking like a person is like almost something magical. And the parrot has the ability to speak the truth. He insults people in a way that other people can't, because he knows that he bears no responsibility, and he discloses the secret of the killer. And this particular parrot is also like a spirit. In the last slide I discussed ghosts being part of a story, and the parrot of Balthasar is like a ghost of Balthasar because he lives on in the parrot. And you know, the usual symbol of a spirit or a soul is the bird, and in this way the parrot is like the spirit of Balthasar, or his soul, flying towards heaven. But instead of flying towards heaven, it returns to his apartment to haunt the living. You can draw some comparisons to like Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. It's that's also a bird that can talk. That's one similarity, and the haunting and the undone business. It's similar in those sorts of ways. And I think it's also something beautiful to think about Balthasar being like this flamboyant or like creative, artistic person, still being alive and more colorful than the living, even through his spirit. And the parrot is colorful and symbolizes like the exotic. Balthasar is interested in art from different cultures, and he's presumably interested in different countries altogether. And the parrot is like some sort of premonition for the story going to South America, where there are, of course, parrots. And the parrot is also a symbol of mockery or something, like an echo chamber of the people. When the parrot taunts Ramon with saying "Caramba, missed again" when he throws his knife at him, he's just saying like the same thing Ramon says. He's mirroring him and thereby making fun of him. I think that is some of the best sort of mockery, the ones where you don't actually have to insult other people, but show how who they are as a way of insulting them. Some other themes that could be connected to the parrot is the theme of secrets, because he doesn't disclose the truth at first, but he contains it, just the same way the fetish hides its secret, the diamond, inside of it. And he's also a symbol of freedom in some sense, because he breaks free of the capture of by Tintin, and flies out. The bird is usually a symbol of freedom. Divine intervention, or something like that, is present in the story. By comparison to the 7 crystal balls, again, the same the same thing happens 2 times. First in the Broken Ear, when Tintin is being threatened by Alonso and Ramon. He is evacuated from the hut by a thunderbolt ball, or like a lightning ball or something. I think it's a real thing. I don't know if it works like that. It's mainly like a plot device, of course. And he's saved, and he's saved by like this the thunder and the sun, like the elements, which is like godly, of course. And the same idea is reused by RJ in the 7 crystal balls, when the mummy of Rasta Kapak is evacuated from his prison in the glass display box by the same type of weather thing. And you know, they are in a somewhat similar position, being prisoned or entrapped, and in the 7 crystal balls, it's almost made clear that it is like the sun god coming down to save the mummy. And I think it could be argued that the same principle applies to the Broken Ear also, that the Tintin is saved miraculously by a higher power, maybe a higher power respecting some sort of order, like being good at heart or something. Tintin, who doesn't want the diamond for himself. And the same idea of like European guilt or something, or the guilt of stealing the cultural objects, could be applied to both these albums, and also the Secrets of the Pharaoh. And you know, it's pretty common theme, the idea of haunting happening as a result of stealing, especially stealing something old and like holy, like opening the tombs of the pharaoh, releasing the curse of the pharaoh, or things like that. Imitations or replicas is like one of the most central themes of the story. There are of course many fetishes as replicas, but there are also other examples. I will go through them now. Ritual becomes like a replica of the Arumbayas, which I have noted here, and they also become somewhat replicated of him by trying to be European in playing golf. And the parrot is of course an imitation of Balthazar's voice, and also of other voices, like the parrot mocking Ramon by imitating him. And all of the fetishes are like replicas, and they are replicas of each other, but also there are two lines of replicas. The later ones we see at the bottom are replicas more precisely made because they also have the broken ear. And of course you can go one step further and say that the fetish itself is also an imitation, of course, because it's like an imitation of a real person or of a god or something. The original for the original. And another fun part of the story is like the many versions of Tintin, and that Ramon and Alonso tries to fight. They of course aren't Tintin, but they look like him and are like imitations of the minds of the villains because they feel anxious about Tintin hunting them down. The imitations of the crime are present also. It's like the same crime being committed by different people, both Lopez and Tortilla and Alonso and Perez. It feels a little bit like deja vu, some of the things that happens in the story. And lastly, General Alcazar and General Tapioca are like the two sides of a same coin. It's almost like a running gag both in this album and the later ones, that they are similar in like every way, but deadly rivals anyways. And the point that nothing changes when they get the other one to power. Okay, onward. Snake bites are a theme of the story. The diamond is said by the Arumbayas to save people from the poison of snake bites. And snakes are of course a symbol of evil, and specifically a symbol of the devil. And the diamond saves the Arumbaya from evil, the snake, the devil maybe, or like the evil spirits, and the diamond is stolen. But then someone else appears, Ridgewell, and we don't see very many snakes in the story. We see only one snake in this frame, and the snake is trying to attack Snowy, but is killed by Ridgewell. So in a way, the Arambayas get their new diamond in Ridgewell, symbolically, of course. Him defeating snakes, showing that he is like the good person. This could be one reason why the Arumbayas seem okay with their loss of the diamond, because they have a new diamond, so to say. Their great ally, friend, and leader, Ridgewell. Okay, and the myth of the snake is of course pretty old. There is the famous myth of Apollo defeating the first great serpent Python at Delphi, and he's like a force of understanding and civilization, the same as George, who in Christian myth defeating the dragon, like nature or the unorganized or something. And of course the snake could also be seen as a symbol of temptation, as in the story of the fall from Eden, where he tempts Eve and Adam to eat from the apple of the tree of knowledge. And maybe Eden could be compared to like the Amazonian jungle or something. but that might be somewhat of a stretch. Okay, so the fetish itself is goes through many roles, 7 to be precise. At first, it is just a fetish owned by the old Arumbayas. What is a fetish? Well, a fetish is some kind of idol, a object of mediation of prayer or communication with dead people or something, connecting again to the divine and to ghosts and so on. But then it is rebranded and it is taken to be gifted to Walker as a peace token. After Lopez secretly puts the diamond inside of it, it becomes like a carrier or a vault, a treasure chest or something, and a great secret bearer. After it gets put in the museum, it instead of all these things, it mainly becomes an object of study or a wonder to the Western gaze. When it is stolen by Tortilla and then given to Balthazar, it becomes a concept of art, both for him and then later for his brother. After it falls to the ground at the floor at the boat at the end of the story, it gets destroyed but later restored. It is like the poison is drawn out of it. It looks much nicer at the end. It's less whole and it looked like broken up, but the evil driving force for all the murders and so on has been extracted from its soul, and it has also gone back to being like just the peace token or something. And a small point as an intermission about the broken ear itself. What does a broken ear symbolize? Well, of course, it would symbolize a loss of hearing, or more generally, a loss of perception or interpretation or something. And if you go back to the first use of the fetish, it would, of course, have been used to communicate through with the gods or the ancestors or something. And by being broken of ear, it would be lacking in this sense. And maybe this is why it is so secretive, and it doesn't work for the Arumbayas, and it doesn't work for any of the criminals trying to get hold of its secrets. It is only by destroying the fetish that the secret is released. Yeah, the 7th point is going back to be like a peace token again, maybe, but also all of these other things, which is an interesting point. It is not just one thing. It is a thing being haunted by all of the other uses and like values. And like a critical question that could be asked about this is, what was the content of F1's realness? We discussed this earlier when we compared F1, F2 and F3. What is it that makes F1 the real one? Well, of course, it being the original, but for us it is more like F1 being the real one because it contains the diamond, or because it has a broken ear. But then it is like complicated by by the arrival of like the millions of other copies by the end, by Balthazar's brother, and suddenly it is not the only one with a broken ear, despite the title of the album. And when it loses his diamond, it's not the fetish with the diamond. It is the broken fetish, which is like a new attribute, which suddenly makes it recognizable. But what is like the real thing of it? And maybe you could discuss if there is like some kind of myth of the content of a thing. I haven't read much by Walter Benjamin, but I know he partakes in the study of this matter in his like text, The Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, or whatever it's called, where he discusses how art becomes different when industrialization hits and art can be like mass produced. What makes something real? What gives something the aura of realness? And yeah, that could be looked into more. Some thoughts about the afterlife of the fetish. In like page 2, the like prospector or something, the boss of the museum talks to the media and the detectives and tells them that the robbery must have been made by a collector, because the fetish doesn't have any actual value. And later, when the fetish is picked up by Balthazar's brother, it is mass produced and sold, and only after that the original becomes an object of interest. Mr. Goldbar sees that it is sold en masse and asks specifically for the original. It's like a weird sort of connection to how Tintin and all the criminals are looking for the original for one reason, contrasted to how like the art buying person of today is looking for original. It could be really some grounds for cultural analysis. But you know, it's something weird about that. Maybe I will go further into that later sometime. Okay, another point I wanted to make. Balthazar, of course, makes this army of objects, and he makes them somewhat in remembrance of his brother. Again, something with ghosts, like the brother coming back, just as the Jacob made a copy. Now copies are made everywhere, and I sort of perceive it as them being made in his honor, and that and the visuals of this frame made me remember the terracotta soldiers of Shi Huanghe, the like first Chinese emperor, and the fetishes being like an army of the dead for Jacob Balthazar or something. I think that would be pretty cool. Another theme present in the album is dying at sea, or like falling to the bottom of the ocean. Lopez dies from an attack on the river. Tortilla is thrown overboard by Ramon and Alonso. Ramon and Alonso Perez are of course also killed by falling into the ocean and grabbing onto each other. And they are dragged on to hell, which is shown in the frame at the bottom here, to the absolute bottom, so to say. And there is some ridiculous comparisons that could be made about drowning, like the Great Flood or something, or dying lost, not being properly buried, as something unchristian or bad generally. And Tintin almost drowns multiple times in the story, in the river, and then at the end together with Ramon and Alonso. And of course the diamond sort of drowns also. It goes down to the ocean floor, lying there together with the bodies of both Ramon, Alonso, and Tortilla. And a small point that goes to be made is that the whole album starts off by Tintin having a bath, to cling on to the theme. Okay, lastly, General Alcazar. It's like a big intermission in the story of the fetish, and as you saw before, I skipped through all of that, but now I wanted to make some comparisons and thematic theories of General Alcazar. He is shown to be an example of the trivial goals of revolution, or the idea of revolution. First off, he is presented as this great revolutionary who has overthrown the dictator and so on, and freed Tintin. But then when Tintin is invited to help him with important business, it's showed that he just sits around playing chess all day and giving out random orders, and he doesn't really care about the politics of it all. It's more about power for the sake of power. And as I discussed earlier, he's a total replica of his enemy. Him and Tapioca are twins to each other somewhat. And he goes from being the rebel in one role to being just a warlord by the end of his story arc, invading the bordering country. And he plays chess with Tintin, and when he loses, he actually pranks Tintin by shooting blanks at him. And I wanted to make a connection to the Swedish film The Seventh Seal, when a knight is playing chess with death. This is somewhat similar, but instead it's the game of death as a farce instead. And I think it's the same more generally for Alcazar. It's playing the game of death of revolutions and war, but he doesn't really do it real. He does it in this alternate reality, some sort. And he is also contrasted by Ridgewell, because Alcazar is a friend of Tintin somewhat, but he is also shown to be a bad leader generally, no pun intended. And in contrast, Ridgewell, who is a total outsider, doesn't make a revolution or anything, he just shows up. He becomes a great leader and a savior of the Arambayas in some sense. But I think there may have been some missed potential in the story and the themes with Alcazar. I think it would have been better if his story is connected to the Arambayas in some way, the war going on in the Arambaya part of the country, or there being some conflict about the oil rights with them or something. I think that parts of the album feels a little bit too disconnected for me. There is one more thematic similarity in that the oil that Alcazar is trying to capture with his war is of course non-existent, and it's just a ploy for like the evil weapons manufacturers to sell more to him and the other country. And in the same way, the diamond is lost at the end. Like there was no oil, and in the end there was no diamond, but all the people died nonetheless. So yeah, this was some thoughts I had about the story, about the Broken Ear, and the themes. And I'd be happy to hear some of your thoughts in the comments as well. Have a great rest of your day.